Which one's better, a chest infection or a sinus infection? How about having both at the same time? Hi, welcome to the Silver Spleen. My name is Tracy Marrow, and this is my review of Paradox. Wilson Yip directed Paradox, which is the third installment in the SPL franchise. He directed all three of the Donnie Yen Ip Man movies, as well as movies he'd probably prefer that we forget, like Triumph in the Skies and Magic to Win. But he also directed the remake of A Chinese Ghost Story, a movie I unexpectedly enjoyed while at the same time conceding that it's really not a great film. And that, to be frank, is the way I feel about Paradox. Louis Koo plays a widowed police officer who has to raise his daughter alone. Well, not alone. She has a boyfriend that Dad doesn't approve of. But the boyfriend likes his daughter, and the daughter likes the boyfriend. Which is how and why, I assume anyway, she ends up pregnant. It does not end well, literally or figuratively, and she goes off to Thailand to sort out her feelings and get an illegible tattoo. Pattaya must be a favorite vacation destination for Hong Kongers, because it's just full of people who speak Cantonese. But never mind that. His daughter disappears, and so Louis Koo, always the man with the plan to maintain his tan, heads off to sunny Pattaya to find her. That's all the plot you really need to know. Because if I tell you anything else about the story, it would literally and figuratively ruin the movie. But it's not just the story that imperils this film. Tell you what, let me talk about what I disliked about Paradox first, to get it out of the way, and then I'll tell you what I liked about it. That way it'll make the review seem more positive from what I've read. In the trailer, you can see Tony Jaa rescuing a little boy from certain death. But what you don't see in the trailer is the second half of that shot, where the wire work is so obvious and off-putting and quite honestly fake, that I laughed out loud in the cinema. You know, I don't care if something is implausible in a movie, I understand that, but I guess I just wish there was something like plausible implausibility. Is that too much to ask? Apparently so. And speaking of too much, Louis Koo is obviously gunning for Aaron Kwok in the Best Actor category. I haven't seen this much facial contortion in a movie since The Mask. But hey, melodrama, right? The only time I felt that facial workout was justified is at one point in the film when Louis Koo suffers an injury that had me saying out loud in the cinema, "Oh, that's not right." But what's also not right is the way that less than 5 minutes later that injury seems to be forgotten and becomes irrelevant and just disappears. I guess its melodramatic usefulness had been exhausted, and so it was cast aside. A lot of Paradox seems to be that way. The story jumps from contrivance to convenience and back again. I concede it's a genre convention that a father can miraculously find the people who know something about his missing daughter in a foreign country he just got to. The fact that these people also miraculously speak his native language helps, I guess. This movie has what you might call an abundance of coincidence. All I'm asking for is a little bit of plausibility or detail to help me believe that this could happen, and I got little to none. Speaking of which, I'm not really sure that I buy Louis Koo versus 40 knife-wielding gangsters. Or should I say that I don't buy into him being the last man standing. But here's where I want to switch horses and talk about the things that I did like about Paradox. Louis Koo doing the Donnie and kicking, exponential ass? No. But Louis Koo was very impressive in his action scenes. He sold me on them. I believed him. I also believed him in most of his acting scenes. I think he did a really good job overall with the movie, especially the action part, because we don't normally associate him with that kind of work. This is one of those performances that you can very easily see was quite physically challenging, and he did a great job. Now, it's a thankless task to be in an action movie that also has Tony Jaa, but Louis kept up, and I can't really blame him for wanting a Best Actor award. I could live without having to see the audition, though. But Louis Koo isn't the only one who does well with the acting and the action, or both. Wu Yu is also doubly impressive as a local cop whose voice speaks Cantonese while his lips speak Mandarin. But that's not my point. His acting and his action are both very highly commendable and, more importantly, very, very watchable. Ken Lo plays a local cop, and he's Ken Lo, case closed. Gordon Lamb puts in yet another great turn as a man so slimy he leaves a trail wherever he walks. He's not given a lot to work with, like most everyone else in the cast, but he makes the most of it. The same can be said of Jackie Kai, whose acting skills, quite frankly, deserved a bigger role. Sammo Hung's action directing and Kenny Tse's cinematography deserve special mention because both are fantastic. They lend Paradox a level of watchability that the story simply doesn't merit. I think Paradox would be much better with a couple of minutes worth of melodrama and silliness just cut out. I also think the implicit pro-life jab wouldn't be missed if it was gone, not just for the moralizing, but for the syrupy way it's delivered. It's a very hard task to make a movie that combines raw, gritty action with cack-handed moralizing, and Paradox proves it. There's a good movie in here somewhere, but it's hard to see because the frankly glaring shortcomings occasionally blind you. Paradox would have been a lot better to me if they'd have just kept it simple and made like an Irish Catholic family reunion. Talk less and just fight more. There's a lot to recommend about this movie in terms of the action. The story isn't so great, but there's a lot to recommend about Paradox in terms of the action and the cinematography and some of the acting. The story doesn't really hold up, but then again, what movie stories ever do? If you want to watch this movie, go see it in a cinema. It's definitely worth that big, loud experience. And if you don't get a chance to do that, wait till you can rent it or buy it. In other words, don't steal this movie! When it gets released to home video, I'll update the description with a link where you could buy a copy of a Blu-ray or a DVD. I'd encourage you to do that. And as long as we're talking about spending money, please take a moment and click on my Patreon page. If you want special content no one else gets to see, if you want to see reviews early, if you want to help me recover from the slashing of advertiser revenue on YouTube, go to Patreon and help me out. If you enjoyed this review, please let me know, and if you didn't, let me know. If you enjoyed the channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.